Guys, the Giants have just wrapped up training camp day 27, and you know we're getting closer to final roster cuts before week 1 against the Cowboys. So things are getting a lot more interesting because the Giants still have some difficult decisions to make, and there's a ton of competition going on across this roster. But beside all of that, the Giants just received the massive good news. And this was one of the biggest concerns surrounding this offense heading into week 1, so the timing couldn't be much better. So let me explain exactly what happened at practice, what this massive news is, and most importantly, how it could impact the Giants when the regular season begins. What's up, Big Blue? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Giants. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, here's the update everybody's been waiting for. Malik Nabers practiced today without the red non-contact jersey. Guys, this is a massive news. That red jersey has basically been a security blanket for him all camp, protecting him from contact while he worked his way back. Today, it came off. And from everything coming out of practice, this might genuinely be the best he has looked since he went down. Even John Harbaugh seemed pleased with what he saw, even though you know he is never going to come out and say something is a guarantee this early. That's just not how he operates. He does not want to jinx anything, and honestly, I respect that approach. But make no mistake, this is a real step forward, and it changes the entire conversation around this offense heading into the opener. Now let's talk about what he actually showed out there, because this wasn't just him jogging around and catching a few easy passes. This was real football. He ran a crossing route, turned upfield, and showed legitimate burst, finishing the catch and run like nothing ever happened to him. Then he went up and made a really tough grab on an underthrown ball, reaching down and getting his hands underneath it on a deep curl route. That is not an easy catch for a receiver who is fully healthy, let alone one coming off the kind of injury he dealt with. He ended up hauling in 6 catches total on the day, across 13 unofficial reps, and honestly, the number of catches wasn't even the most important thing. But the play that stood out the most was a diving grab on a comeback route, thrown by backup quarterback Brandon Allen, with Nabers laying out in front of cornerback Art Green to bring it in. What made it even more encouraging was that he was barely touched on any of his reps that day. This wasn't a physical live tackling practice, it was a shell session with minimal contact, so this was about proving he could still move and explode, not about taking hits. He popped right back up after the dive with no hesitation. When you're talking about a receiver coming back from a serious knee injury, that is exactly the kind of moment you want to see. It's never really about going up for the ball, it's about how a guy comes down and reacts afterward, and today he passed that test with flying colors. Honestly, if you walked into practice today not knowing anything about his medical history, you would have had no idea he had undergone multiple surgeries to get back on the field. He looked completely natural out there, moving just like every other receiver in that group, blending right in like nothing had ever happened to him. Back earlier in training camp, there was a noticeable limp after certain reps, something that stood out if you were watching closely, something you could not really unsee once you noticed it. That limp is gone now. And that does not happen by accident. That is a credit to the training staff, the strength program, and honestly to Nabers himself for putting in the work on that rehab. This is a guy who is chasing greatness, a guy who knows he can be great if his body cooperates, and right now, his body is finally starting to cooperate. So, what does this mean for week 1 against the Cowboys? Well, things are trending in a really positive direction. There's still a lot that can happen between now and September 13th. Injuries in the NFL can be unpredictable, but based on what we are seeing right now, it looks like he is going to be out there under the lights at MetLife for that Sunday night opener, barring anything unforeseen between now and then. Now, would the Giants be smart to manage his workload a little bit, maybe keep him on some kind of snap count or pitch count early on? Possibly, and that would honestly make sense given everything he's been through. But honestly, if he keeps feeling the way he's feeling and keeps looking the way he looked today, it might be really tough for this coaching staff to hold him back much at all, especially if he tells them he's feeling 100%. And that brings me to the offense as a whole, because getting him back changes everything for Jaxson Dart. This kid is stepping into a brand new offense, and having your top receiving option back on the field gives him a security blanket he desperately needs heading into his first real test as the starter. It's one thing to trust your reads when you're throwing to a full receiving room. It's a completely different thing when your top guy has been sidelined the entire summer. Now, Dart has real options out there, guys he can actually lean on when things get tough in the pocket. Beyond just the receiver room, John Harbaugh is clearly building this offense to take pressure off Dart in other ways too, which is exactly why you're seeing Najee Harris added to the backfield mix. A physical downhill running game paired with a healthy top receiver gives Dart multiple ways to move the ball instead of forcing him to do everything himself right out of the gate. And that combination could end up being the difference for this offense early in the season. Okay, now let's shift over to the receiver room as a whole, because this competition is honestly getting more interesting by the day. Malachi Fields, the guy they traded up into the 3rd round to get, looks like a legit starter opposite Nabers. He's a big target at 6'4", and he's shown he can win in a lot of different ways, using that size to just win contested catches down the field. Then you've got Calvin Austin III, who honestly might be having as good of a camp as anybody on this roster right now. He's making tough catches, showing off that catch radius people talk about, and he's proving that being a smaller receiver does not limit what he can do after the catch. He's wiggly, he gets open, and he'll make defenders miss in a phone booth if you give him the ball in space. You can tell Dart already trusts him because he keeps going right back to him over and over. Then you still have Darius Slayton in the mix too, a guy who has been around and knows how to get open and make plays when his number is called. With this many weapons fighting for snaps, the Giants coaching staff has some genuinely tough decisions ahead when it comes to finalizing this receiver room, which brings us to one of the toughest situations on the entire roster right now, and that's Odell Beckham Jr. His path back onto this roster has not been easy, and honestly, it's not getting much easier with the extra depth the Giants have added at receiver. He's shown flashes, no doubt about it. He made guys miss on a nice catch near the sideline, showing that dynamic ability is still there. But he also had a drop in the end zone against the Dolphins that he probably wishes he had back. If he comes down with that catch, I honestly think you slot him in right there as a lock to make this team. Watching him closely, though, you can tell he's actually become a smarter route runner than he was during his first stint with this team. Back then, he leaned heavily on pure athleticism. Now, he understands how to sell his route stem and set up a defender before ever getting to the ball. And you have to remember, this man is 33 years old, and his body has genuinely held up through this entire camp, which says a lot on its own. That final preseason matchup against the Jets on Friday night is shaping up to be a massive opportunity for him, kind of a full-circle moment, honestly, needing one more preseason game to prove he belongs. If he comes down with a big play or two in that game, it could be exactly what pushes him onto this roster. And finally, let's talk about Jaxson Dart heading into that same Jets game, because this is a big one for him too. He didn't play at all in the previous preseason game against the Dolphins, which means he still hasn't gotten those live reps in this brand new offense. Getting him extended, playing time against the Jets, even if it's just a handful of series, is going to matter a lot heading into the regular season. Some people think a couple of series with extended drives makes the most sense, giving him maybe 6 to 8 plays within those series, while others think he should get a full half to really show what he can do. There's really no substitute for game action, especially when you're still learning a new system from scratch. John Harbaugh has never been the type of coach who plays it safe just to protect his quarterback, and Dart himself has shown all camp that he doesn't play scared either. So don't be surprised if he gets a solid chunk of playing time on Friday night, because both the coaching staff and the player himself seem ready to find out exactly where this offense stands heading into Week 1. So that's everything coming out of Camp Day 27 for the Giants. Nabers trending in the right direction. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you believe Nabers is playing Week 1 against the Cowboys? And how much run do you want to see out of Jaxson Dart against the Jets? Drop your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next one.